Millions of Americans lost their homes to short sales and foreclosures over the past few years, but now many are hoping to own a home again and own it soon. Everything you need to know about this, if you want to do this, being a boomerang buyer is what it's called. Lifestyle lawyer Shari Olefson joins us to tell us more about this. Nice to see you again, as always. But my first question is, the thought that pops into my mind is, if you're a boomerang buyer, how do you become a buyer again if you've already short-saled or had a foreclosure? How do you get that mortgage?
Well, Roxanne, these folks are facing the same situation that we all face, except for the big difference is that they have to wait a certain amount of time after a short sale or a foreclosure or a deed in lieu of foreclosure. That time period, the most common time period, used to be 7 years, which is still how long a foreclosure would stay on your credit report. But the government is really behind trying to get these folks back into homeownership because, frankly, it helps them and it helps all of us. So, for example, FHA recently came out with the Back to Work program, which says that if you lost your home due to an employment issue where your income went down by 20% or more for 6 months or more, you only have to wait 1 year now, not that full 7 years. Fannie Mae also recently ironed out some kinks in their system, which was confusing a short sale, the way a short sale was reported, with foreclosure. So folks who short sold and should be able to buy after 2 to 4 years were being penalized and not able to buy until 4 to 7 years, like a foreclosure. So there are a lot of things that are being done to try to help folks back into the system.
What are some of the other issues? I mean, after now, but those are kind of waivers.
Yeah, well, waiting periods and trying to shorten those, trying to help people understand the circumstances that got them there, not just really, stamping this in a kind of cookie-cutter way, but being a little more specific and helping people who deserve to be back into homeownership.
Perhaps understanding.
Yeah.
In addition to that, what are some of the other issues these boomerang buyers face?
Yeah, it's primarily what we all have to deal with, so credit reports, for example. But the challenge that most people have, a credit score can be hit anywhere from 80 to up to 200 points by a foreclosure or short sale or a deed in lieu. And if you had an FHA or a VA loan and the government had to pay a claim, remember those are loans that the government basically insures. If they had to pay a claim, then you're not going to be able to get a loan unless you deal with that with the government and repay the claim. So there are some issues with that. Down payment too. A lot of folks got into these homes for zero down and are surprised to hear you need a down payment. FHA is still the cheapest way. That way you need 3.5% down, but by some estimates as many as 2.5 million of these borrowers are capable now of borrowing again because they have that money. And then last, of course, is the debt to income ratio, which is the amount of your income monthly that you spend on debt. And the new rules now say that cannot exceed 43%, which is actually the biggest challenge for a lot of folks.
I bet it is. Now, for a boomerang buyer applying for a mortgage, are there changes from when they were doing it in the bubble?
Well, the biggest change, the biggest difference is you really need to plan ahead. I mean, it used to be that if you had a pulse, you could get a loan. Now you need to plan ahead at least 6 months to make sure that these things are in line. Make sure you've got the credit score you need, make sure you've saved the down payment, and make sure your debt to income ratio is right. You may need to cancel a cell phone or reduce your cable service, for example, to get that debt to income ratio where it needs to be.
Know where you need to be before you even go ahead and get into buying the house, because you've got to get some things in order financially.
There are ways to do that, but you have to plan ahead.
Yep, do some research and paperwork. Thank you. Always good to see you, Shari. Let's go over to the anchor desk.